They're part of the problem. They're trying to keep the problem hidden from the public, and there's quite a lot of those. So anyhow, let's just see where we are in terms of the video recording. Okay, 17 minutes and 30 seconds, so we're just starting a second clip here. Just going to check the time, see where we are time-wise. Been doing a fair bit of monologue here. Probably should have done a bit more displaying of the picket signs, but I think people know what this is about. 10:39. Okay, so it's just 10 minutes into the service. Normally starts at 10:30, so they're just starting the service. I normally wrap up the protest around 11. I've been protesting since fairly early this morning, so I may wrap it up a little sooner rather than later. I may make this the final segment, especially in terms of catching a bus home. So yeah, I think we've had a pretty good little protest here. I think we made the points we wanted to make in terms of women involving themselves in Unitarian Universalist cover-up and denial of clergy sexual misconduct. I mean, there's probably a fair number of things I haven't spoken about. Well, let's talk about the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. They recently, well, I shouldn't say recently, it's almost a year ago now. Last year, June 3rd, if I remember correctly, the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association sent out an email to their members. These are Unitarian Universalist ministers, and it was ostensibly a letter of apology for clergy sexual misconduct. There was a couple of problems with this. One is that it was sent to ministers. This apology, to the best of my knowledge, was not even sent to actual victims of clergy sexual misconduct. It was sent to the ministers. The apology itself was problematic. Most ironically, they apologize for minimizing clergy sexual misconduct. Well, guess what? The apology itself minimizes clergy sexual misconduct. They said only a few ministers were guilty of clergy sexual misconduct. This is quite frankly a lie. They know perfectly well that literally hundreds of Unitarian Universalist ministers are guilty of clergy sexual misconduct of one kind or another, and yet in their so-called letter of apology, they say only a few ministers are guilty of clergy sexual misconduct, and they couch it ever so delicately by saying a few ministers didn't live up to the utmost honesty and integrity. You know, we're talking about some ministers who use their congregations as harems. We're talking about some ministers who are guilty of sexual abuse of children. We're talking about some ministers who are guilty of rape. You know, to couch clergy sexual misconduct as ministers not living up to the utmost honesty, integrity is just ridiculous. It's basically narcissism as far as I'm concerned. And I told them that. Oh, and by the way, I should mention that I only became aware of this last November. So, you know, several months went by before I even became aware of this apology. Well, when I became aware of it, I first of all blogged about it, and then soon after I sent an email on Thanksgiving Day, actually, American Thanksgiving Day, so I think it's the 28th of November, end of November in any case, sent an email to the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association pointing out the serious problems with their apology, which I just mentioned some of them, and making it clear to them that I expected them to deliver a new and improved apology, one that is made to actual victims of clergy sexual misconduct, not to ministers, one that clearly recognizes the extent and seriousness of clergy sexual misconduct and doesn't minimize it in the apology itself, and one that is very public. I made it clear that they should deliver this apology at the upcoming General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association in June. Well, guess what? They basically brushed me off. I raised other issues with them. I raised some of the issues that I've spoken about in this protest too. The fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association falsely accused me of violating Canada's blasphemy law and legal bullying intended to intimidate me into taking down blog posts that told the readily verifiable truth about pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, to say nothing of Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers. I pointed out problems in their guidelines, pointed out problems in terms of the policies and procedures for dealing with clergy misconduct and so on. So I actually put a fair number of issues on their plate, and they essentially ignored it. They did actually write me a letter. I said, oh, here's a bus, so I guess I missed that bus. Or maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah, we're going to try and get the bus. Because I think we've done enough here today. Crap. Okay, looks like we're going to make it. See, the astonishment to be crushed in the mouth.